Welcome back to the MLSecOps podcast. Thrilled to be with you here today. My name is Charlie McCarthy. I'm one of your MLSecOps community leaders and your co-host for today's episode, where I am delighted to be joined by one of my colleagues at Protect AI, Jessica Souder. Jess, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yeah. And then our very special guest today is Rob Linger from Leidos, but I won't dive too deep into intros. Jess, why don't I pass it over to you for a quick introduction about yourself, and then Rob will circle around to you.
Sure. So I'm the Director of Government and Defense for Protect AI. I actually started with the company in 2022 as an advisor, and I've been thrilled to see how the company's grown. My career is in national security. I started with CIA as an operations officer in 2008. I've got over 20 years of experience in the space. And now I focus on emerging technologies like securing AI.
Fabulous. And Rob, for our listeners, if you don't mind, what is it that you do at Leidos? Let them know a little bit about that and kind of what brought your journey around to Leidos today.
Sure thing. So, Leidos is a approximately 50,000 employee company. And we work across a wide range of customer sets, from DoD, IC, energy, health, you name it, right? And Leidos is there. We look to really solve our customers' most vexing problems using best of breed technologies and solutions, and obviously our very talented engineering and professional services staff. Within Leidos, I am the Information Advantage Practice Lead. And to us, Information Advantage really encompasses everything from your data, your artificial intelligence, machine learning, automation, that entire set of capabilities, right? So it is very broad. It's a very exciting space, obviously, right now to be in. And it's a space where, just like with software development, the security of how you implement these things, how you build them and how you deploy them and secure them across the entire life cycle is very important to us.
Yeah, paramount for sure.
Just looking at your background a little bit, Rob, it's a little different from your average AI leader. I mean, a lot of AI companies are scrappy. They come from the startup community in the West Coast, but you've been in the Marines, you've served on a city council, you even ran a tech company. Tell us a little bit about that journey and how you ended up working on AI at Leidos.
Sure thing. So, I've always been very passionate about technology from a very young age. I not to date myself too much, but I was in high school when the high school got their first computers, right? And I was fortunate enough that I had a computer at home. And I know that's weird to say, right? In this day and age, like, yeah, I had a computer at home, you know what I mean? But I had a big old compact Rosario, big monitor, the speakers on the side, where in the world's Carmen Sandiego and all that. So I was very passionate about that from day one, since the dial-up days. But from there, I decided first to, go into the Marines. I served in the infantry. So I was an enlisted infantryman. So, never give up on your dreams. You know what I mean? And, as I was there, I still had my sort of baseline passion of technology, but also business. I'm very interested in how businesses work, what makes things tick. So, after leaving the Marines, I went to college and got a degree, with the goal of starting my own business right out of the gate. That was what I wanted to do. So of course I started a business in sort of the federal contracting world and worked that for a while, did fairly well, as a small business, ended up selling that business and, going on to become a chief information officer for a college. And doing that work is where I really started to dig into first cybersecurity, and then I started digging into data science, right? Because I got interested in, gathering important information about the college and about the students and their outcomes, how they interact and interplay, and to help make data-driven decisions at the institution. So sort of bringing that confluence of skills together. From there, went on and got my master's degree in data science. And that's how I sort of broke into the data science world. And actually, my first job in data science was here at Leidos.
Wow. That's incredible. Are there any principles you would say, Rob, that you brought along from your time in the Marines? Thank you for your service, by the way. Or, even as an entrepreneur, how did all of those experiences shape the way that you're approaching AI today at Leidos, or over the course of even that career back from when you started just in data science?
Sure. So there's a few core principles that I like to follow. One of them is to always provide value, right? If you're not providing value, then you need to really reassess, what you're doing. So getting time to value to be very low is extremely important to me. It's extremely important to Leidos, right? That's one of the reasons I really enjoy working here. But also, you have to keep your eye on the holistic picture. By my nature, I'm a fast mover. I like to, kick in doors. I like to get things done. But that doesn't mean that you can ignore the holistic picture that includes, security, governance, and all of those items that come along, with providing a really, production grade solution for your customers.
Right.
And that starts at the beginning, just like with software development. You want to introduce cybersecurity through that entire life cycle of developing capabilities. And in my mind, working with AI and delivering AI-based solutions is that very same thing. It is software engineering, and it follows all of those same best practices. So just like when you're developing, say, microservices, and you're tossing those up on Kubernetes, hey, what's an agent really, right? And if you're not injecting the cybersecurity principles and best practices from the beginning, and you're treating it as an afterthought, you're going to have problems. So you really need to be able to bring those in across the entire life cycle.
Absolutely.
It's funny you bring up all the use cases for the university. When I think about you a lot, I think about the service background. I know you spent time in Iraq. I spent time in Afghanistan. We talk about mission a lot when we are around the intelligence community or DoD, and I think that's an unusual word when you're dealing with Silicon Valley. They're not always talking about mission, and they feel funny saying it. Mm-hmm. But it makes me wonder, how do you think about DoD's approach to AI and the capabilities that you bring to the table to enable that mission? Yeah.
So every little section of DoD is slightly different. Yeah. They have a holistic view, and I keep saying holistic a lot. That's why I keep using that word, but they do have
it's the best word for that. Yeah.
they have a really good view, and they have produced artifacts and guidance on how to do things. But it depends on the customer, and it really depends on what their mission is, right? On how quickly they're going to move forward. We have some customers that are just phenomenal at leaning forward. They're out there doing things I would never even have dreamed they're doing, especially in the time that I was in the Marines, right? We have people throwing stuff on laptops and taking them out for deploying to really rapidly find out, what the actual value proposition is for some of these AI solutions.
Yeah.
So, meeting the customer where they're at, helping them identify gaps or any concerns that they have, or, if they need to start from ground zero and build up an entire solution, we like to do that and really ensure that we're bringing that best of breed solution to the customers.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I think a lot about what we used to do in the battle space and how we used to look for targets and parse through information. And it was similar to you and I both remarking that we had a computer back in the day. Things have changed so much.
Yeah. And it's interesting because, the types of work that you did and the types of work that I did were actually two separate sides of the same coin, right? Where you were out there gathering the information and distilling it and getting that important information down to what matters to the warfighter. I was the one out there receiving the information, and depending on the veracity of that information to, really ensure that we were safe and that we were making the right decisions out there in the battlefield.
That's a really good point, the complementary nature of your time spent in service. And I was just going to kind of take the question you just asked Rob and flip it back to you, Jess, your time, in the CIA and the ways that you served. Did that influence at all how you're kind of thinking about governance and secure AI adoption now in defense settings, or even with your work with our Leidos counterparts?
Absolutely. I mean, we were talking about mission earlier, and we really believe in that concept. When you're putting yourself at risk to do things for our country, or when you're putting yourself away from your family in situations where you're not seeing them, or you're doing things for long periods of time, you want your work to be meaningful. Mm-hmm. And so one thing that's become very clear, especially over the last 10 years, is that AI has the ability to not only make us more efficient, but more competent, and that rapid adoption needs to happen, and it needs to happen as soon as possible. I think about the tools that AI bring to the table and what we could do with those tools against compartmentalized and sensitive information to stay competitive with our adversaries and just to stay current with all the data that we have. And we very much need to support that adoption. So when I think about Protect AI's mission and our ability to mitigate risk and to work with partners like Leidos to do that and to help that happen faster with their bigger footprint and know-how, as well as access to the community, to me, it's just a win-win. And it's exactly where I think we need to be. It's why I came here to work.
Yeah. You, both of you, Jess and Rob, coming from service backgrounds, you clearly understand how difficult it can be to responsibly deploy tech in government. What can you tell us a little bit about what brought Protect AI and Leidos into alignment and kind of some of these shared, core, I won't use the word values because that's a very specific set of things, but like related to AI security, how you recognize that this relationship was going to be important?
First of all, I have to give a shout out to, the Leidos external tech teams, right? Like we have some really wonderful people that do a lot of work, sort of scanning the disruptors out there and the startups that are out in these emerging fields, to bring them to the table to find out if there's a there. And we happen to have a team member that brought Protect AI to the table, and obviously Protect was very willing to get a bunch of people, bring them down to our office. Yeah. And I remember the first meeting we had where we had the big whiteboard in the back, and we just got up and just started scribbling stuff out. We started saying okay, here's the products, and then I say, well, this is a representative environment, right? And then we started plugging in where all the different offerings fit in, and right away it was very clear to me the value and the importance of it, because sort of as I alluded to earlier, and I didn't get into this, but my previous role before this current role, I was the AI software architect within our Office of Technology. So I was looking at that whole picture up on the wall and thinking to myself, this is just like securing, a large scale software application end to end. And I think about the types of things that we do as a part of our software development lifecycle here at Leidos. Hey, now we're working with AI, and there's different types of artifacts that you have to pull in. There's different places you're pulling those in from. So instead of, say, NPM or PyPy registry or Maven, wherever you may be pulling your software artifacts from, now we are looking at things like Hugging Face, right? And hey, what does Protect AI do with Hugging Face? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I saw immediately that Protect AI had got ahead of the crowd and started building that tooling that can treat all of these artifacts the same way that I was familiar with the software development artifacts. And it all just clicked in my mind. And I said, this this is perfect, right? This is what we need to do.
Love to hear that.
Absolutely. And the whiteboarding session was, I think, over a year ago at this point. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how much we can come together to support different aspects of the government, not just the intelligence community and DoD, but others as well, like healthcare and veterans healthcare. Lots of opportunity there. And I think we're pretty excited by just the sheer reach of Leidos. Like I said, we're scrappy and small. And so right now there's only about 120 of us. And so it's hard to keep up with what you guys can do. Well, speaking of scrappy, Rob, I'm really curious, what are you actually building and enabling at Leidos with regard to AI? I'd love to hear more about how you hope to work together and just your day-to-day mission.
Sure thing. So, obviously we have a lot of different areas and that we're looking at. The scope is massive. The large driver right now, obviously around LLMs and agents, agentic workflows, chatbots, automation. All of those areas are running really fast right now. What we're aiming to do here at Leidos is build an end-to-end capability for our customers that can cover a broad range of use cases. From your standard automation use cases all the way up through your anomaly detection, your LLM chatbots, agentic use cases, and in order to do that, we have to look at the entire infrastructure. And as a part of that infrastructure, we look at the networking, we look at, the hosting environment, the cloud environment. We want to look at the user experience. We want to look at the cybersecurity aspect of it as well, and how it may impact efforts in the future for our customers when it comes to getting and gaining knowledge out of their existing data, and using that information to also help them identify and prioritize places where they can modernize.
Along those lines, who do you find is the most kind of either reluctant or supportive of this idea of adopting security for AI with your government customers? Do you feel like the cybersecurity team's real pro? How do you feel like the machine learning teams and developers are responding?
Thus far, everybody's on board. Right. I have not heard anyone be reluctant about adding security, especially in the way that Protect AI adds security. Right. So as far as, say, the developers go, for the most part, it's very unintrusive. They don't notice that it's there unless something happens and they need to be protected. A great example is, sort of when you're doing some forward-leaning research and you're out there and you want to pull, let's say, for instance, if you're working on an agentic flow and instead of having a centralized LLM that all your agents are going to communicate with, you want to experiment with possibly a subset of agents or each individual agent having its own small LLM to use right there that you can, fine tune. You can get it very purpose built, very mission specific. And you just want to pull down the top 5, say 4 gig models or 4 billion parameter models. A lot of times you're not going to sit there and do a lot of heavy research into exactly what that model is, who built it, where it came from. You're not going to go through and look at all the layers, but Protect AI will do that for you. So behind the scenes, if it's a safe model, then a researcher or developer can just pull that. If not, then they're stopped and they get a reason why they were stopped. So, it's not something that interrupts workflow. It doesn't slow down workflow. And generally, when you run into resistance to adding security to something, it's because it's going to add time or effort on those developers and researchers' part. But thus far, we haven't had any of those issues using Protect AI.
That's fantastic, and I love the way that you articulated that, Rob. in the industry, there has been a lot of debate over the last couple of years about, security controls versus innovation. And to your point, it doesn't have to be that way. Like if the security is good, you can almost innovate faster because you've got the assurance in your tools or, models that you're pulling down. You can go even faster when you know that they're safe and you're not going to have to be worried about model failure in the future and having like a rollback plan in place. It's just that extra reassurance. So I thought that was a really good call out.
Yeah, 100%. Right. And there always is a push and pull between, speed and security. But one of the things that we pride ourselves on at Leidos is providing speed, security, and scale to our customers. And when we find, teams and products like Protect AI that enable the speed and security, and we can bring scale to the table, perfect.
That's awesome. Thank you. And it's funny, when I worked at the agency, I worked a lot with different contractors, of course, and had some Leidos colleagues, and you guys were always great. But I'm curious, you've had an interesting journey. I'm going to zoom out a bit, working with government customers. What's that been like, and how has it changed over time, especially with regard to machine learning and AI?
Yeah. So, I like to say I've been doing machine learning since before it was cool, right? And that, there's people that have been doing a lot longer than I have. And I'm fortunate that I work with a lot of great people who have a lot more experience than I do directly in the field. But sort of just from the path that I took across, being a CIO and running my own business. And I also had a stint there where I did offensive cybersecurity work. So that was pretty cool. I sort of had this overall view of each of those pieces of the puzzle and how they fit together. I've done it wrong enough times in my life that I have a pretty good view of what right looks like. And so you combine that with working with government customers across the past over 20 years, and just seeing the challenges that they have faced across time, and how those challenges have changed and morphed across time, and just consistently trying to keep track of new processes, technologies, frameworks across time to help resolve those pain points for our customers. Because if you boil down to the root of the issues that folks have in the technology world, the root cause is often the same. It's the only things that change are the technologies that they want to use, the technologies that we want to use to help solve any of those issues, and then obviously the volume and velocity of data has just exponentially grown.
Yeah.
So that's to say that if on a high level, it looks like a lot of things have changed across time as far as challenges go. But once you boil down to the low level, it comes down to we need to take data and we need to turn that data into actionable insights. And how we do that and how much we can do that, that's what changes over time.
Absolutely. Reminds me of the targeting conversation, or the conversation we were having earlier about, me collecting and you using. At the end of the day, we were doing it before, we just weren't doing it well. So Curious to see where we go.
And I always joke, because we talk a little bit about college, and I know that you just recently graduated with yet another degree, right?
I did.
And I think I told you, I said we could learn a lot from the folks that run the campaigns to get money from alumni, right? Like those guys are more persistent than skip tracers. They'll track you. You can just disappear, buy a plane ticket and fly off and leave everything behind. Wherever you end up, you'll get a piece of mail from your alma mater.
It's funny you say that. I know I'm a Penn State graduate, undergrad, and there's a crazy number of graduates from Penn State, and they find me every 6 months. So they do manage.
Yep.
They keep track of all of us. probably using AI to do it.
Rob, from where you're sitting right now, we've talked about trying to implement more secure measures or use of security tools for AI systems, possibly with some of your government clients. But even the security piece aside, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing your government customers face in trying to adopt AI in general? I know that you mentioned as far as the security piece goes, it's been well enough received among developers and cybersecurity teams. Are there other challenges that are being faced when, is it a matter of like going through the procurement process, maybe trying to figure out if you even have a use case for AI, or what roadblocks are you seeing there, if any?
So there's a number of things that are always sort of in motion behind the scenes. And in some of our spaces, especially in defense, IC, or even some of our other customers, such as IRS, SSA, where you're holding PII or PHI, depending on the customers. The security is a big piece of it. But sort of on the heels of that is also policy. Policy has to continue to evolve. The difficult part there is that the technology evolves so fast, it's difficult to evolve policy at the pace that the technology evolves. And policy really has to do with not only policy for using the technology, but your procurement process, your procurement cycles, right? The policies that go behind all of that. Another big one that we see right now is if you start talking about ATOs, right? There's a push right now to do a lot more automation in the ATO process within the DoD.
You mean the authority to operate process, Rob?
Yep, the authority to operate process.
Explain that a little bit. Some of our audience isn't quite familiar with it, so.
Okay, sorry.
Good call.
Yeah, so in order to gain authority to operate, there's a lot of work that has to be done to ensure the security of the things that you're bringing into a government system. And that follows the risk management framework, and there's a bunch of other pieces that go together to make all of this work. So as technology evolves quickly and we want to get these newest capabilities into our customers' hands, we have to work with our customers to ensure that we're getting it to them in a way that they're comfortable with. We also want to give them solutions that where they can stand behind the results of that AI, like the explainability and the observability. Each of those pieces need to be there as well. So it is a very complex situation that the whole world is in right now as far as these technologies go. But that's where Leidos comes in, and that's where we shine. We have so many amazing people that they have that really deep customer knowledge. They have the relationships so that we can talk through and help guide our customers down the path to get the solutions that they need, and to ensure that they meet all the requirements of the customer.
Thanks for that, Rob. I mean, I've also been kind of working through some of the challenges with regard to ATO, just on the Protect AI side. With regard, though, to adoption, what have you seen that works? What really moves the needle in terms of adoption?
So with adoption, the best way to do that is to really focus in on a particular use case, right? An item that is of high value to your customer, and tackle that one thing. Okay. And if you could tackle that one thing and show them the outcome immediately, right? Get them that value as fast as possible. That is what will really help with adoption, because once you show them that you're able to solve a very specific problem and you're able to provide that value, and then from there you can drill down and show them under the covers all the complexity that's there, all the security that's there, how the networking, how the data flows, why it matters. But give them that value first. And as soon as they see that value, then that eases the door open a little bit more to say, okay, let's broaden the scope of this project. Let's tackle items, 2 through 5 on my top 5 list, right? And as you're able to work through those and really be very transparent about what that process looks like and what you're doing to secure all of their assets, all of their data, then it really, really, really helps with adoption. So that again, all the way back to the time to value. If you get them value quickly, then adoption will follow.
It's interesting for me with some of the customers that we don't share. The first challenge right off the bat has been model scanning and wanting a way to just mitigate the risk for bringing models from outside environments into their environment. Is there any one thing that you would say has been like a common one thing that your government customers have been asking about with regard to AI ML?
Yeah, so the primary thing that always comes up is, is my data secure? What's happening with my data? What data is being sent, and what am I getting back?
Yep.
Right. So obviously, you want to have tooling where you can show them, and for us, Protect AI is that tooling.
We're very glad it is. But
okay, so on the heels of the topic of securing AI responsibly in the future, and I'll pose this question to both of you, Jess, if you want to jump in also, what do you see as the next big thing in the AI security space over the next couple of years, or what do you hope the next big thing will be?
I'll let Rob go first.
Sure. So, I'll give maybe a 2-year, because I think that going anything beyond that, it might be a fool's errand, right? To try to predict. But I think one of the next big things is going to be that agent to agent communication and securing that capability. Because if you think about sort of, having an orchestrator agent and a number of agents below the orchestrator that are working, maybe agent 1 has access to tools and is allowed to use certain tools that agent 2 is not allowed to use. How do we make sure that agent 2 doesn't just use the tools through agent 1 and pull the data back through? So we need to really start putting some thought into how we are going to secure and observe, the communications in a very rapid way between large numbers of agents.
Absolutely. It's something that I think we're starting to think about as a team too, Protect AI. I spent a lot of time though in the defense tech space. Rob mentioned that I graduated recently. I've spent a lot of time in Boston up at MIT, and I keep running across more and more the focus on drone technology, on UAS, and on autonomous systems and robotics. And I think that we will someday soon reach a point where we have to start talking about securing the AI ML that's driving those systems. I don't know what the timeline for it looks like, and I don't know how long of a projection that would be, but I definitely think that could be the next thing after the agent discussion that Rob was just talking about. Who knows where Protect AI would be at that point, but hopefully we're ahead of the curve. So
I don't doubt they will be.
Yeah.
Okay, groovy. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Rob, so much for being here. We're going to wrap it up for our MLSecOps community members. You can find this episode and many more at MLSecOps.com. We will provide some links within the show notes so that you can go read more about what Leidos and Protect AI are doing together. And we will see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.